Hello, and welcome to the first of the Gollancz Festival 2015 Google Hangouts. My name is Simon Spanton. I'm the Associate Publisher for the list, and I'd like to welcome you to a panel which is clumsily titled Time Travelers versus Fallen Angels versus Spaceships versus Ventriloquist Dummies. While you're watching this, have a think about who you think has made the best case for their subject matter, and tweet us on Gollancz Fest 15 after you watch the Hangout. And leave a comment on the video if you'd like to as well. And when we hit 500 views, we will be picking 5 winners to win a signed set of all the novels by the authors participating today. So I'm going to kick off by introducing each author in turn and asking them to pitch their subject matter. I'm also going to be cruel to them and rubbish their subject matter to start off with. So we're going to start off with Anna Caltabiano, whose novel Seven Miss Hatfield we published last year and has a new novel coming out at the end of this month called The Time of the Clockmaker. Anna, you've chosen time travel. Doesn't time travel just let you get out of any plot hole you've written yourself into? Isn't it a massive cheat?
Yes, it is. And it is wonderful. Well, I'd just like to start off by saying time travel is just plain awesome. You get to travel into the future and create worlds that don't exist yet, people who don't exist yet. You get to time travel into the past, stick your characters into some scene that looks familiar because you've read of it in a history book. The characters get to interact with people that are familiar to you because you know Henry VIII, you know Napoleon, you know all these people. Well, you know the facts about them. You don't really know how they'll interact with your characters, with regular people. It's just a lot of fun, and you get to watch your characters grow, you get to watch them change, and you get to watch them when they're a baby, toddling around on the living room floor. You get to watch them when they're much older, interacting with their own kids. And I think best of all, you get to see how everything works out in the future.
Okay, thank you. Aliette de Bodard, whose novel House of Shattered Wings is her first with us, but not her first novel, comes out on the 20th of August. Aliette, you've chosen Fallen Angels. Are these unknowable beings, or are they just another brand of superhero?
I think I can make a case for them being darker, more seductive, and more alluring than superheroes. I think they're a cross between vampires and superheroes. They're tall, dark, handsome. In my book, at least, they wear classy swallowtails and swank around, having those luxurious dinner parties in a devastated Paris. And they have magic which is powerful, addictive, reduces your lungs to jelly, but that's a negligible side effect, or possibly a weapon against other magical factions. So there you go, you definitely want them to be on your side.
Excellent. And next up we have Alex Lamb, whose first novel, Roboteer, came out on the 16th of July. And he's chosen to try and justify spaceships in science fiction. Alex, really, what place does something as old-fashioned as a spaceship have in modern history?
And to which my response is, old-fashioned, are you kidding? The thing about spaceships is that if spaceships aren't a part of humanity's future, we're in terrible, terrible trouble. Spaceships are basically the means by which we explore the universe around us, and not only that, but we have the opportunity to explore environments and try to self-sustain environments. The best way that we can learn about Earth, how to protect the Earth, and how to sustain life on Earth is by taking some people and putting them somewhere other than Earth. So I would say it's not only that, but it's a tremendously exciting environment in which to tell awesome stories with lots of things blowing up and rushing around at tremendously high velocities. So I think you cannot have something either more pragmatically useful, morally sound, or tremendously exciting.
Blowing things up is, of course, the point of science fiction. Moving on to Al Robertson, his first novel, Crashing Heaven, came out from us on the 18th of June. And Al made, I think, the massive mistake of trying to have a science fiction novel with something straight out of horror in it. Al, how can you have a ventriloquist dummy in a science fiction novel?
Well, ventriloquist dummies are magnificent. First of all, there should be more horror in science fiction, because so much science fiction is about stepping into dark, empty, lonely places and having terrifying things happen to you. It's at the heart of horror, it's at the heart of science fiction. Secondly, ventriloquist dummies rock. They're absolutely fantastic. They're a brilliant way of thinking about technology because, like technology, they have no life or no existence if we're not animating them. But also, like technology, they completely have a mind of their own, and they go off and they do their own thing, and they possess us, and they take us over, and they tell us how to live. And the third thing, in writing this, didn't actually have too much choice, because Hugo Fist marched into my head, pretty much fully formed, told me he was going to be in that. And that's the other great thing about ventriloquist dummies. They possess you, they take over your life, and so far it's worked out all right, but with ventriloquist dummies you can never tell.
Okay, so that's good pitches from everyone. Now we get to do the fun bit, which is drunkenly rebut each other and say, no, you can't possibly have this. So does anyone want to turn on the lovely Anna and tell her that time travel just doesn't work in novels?
It's gonna break my heart.
Well, it's not so much that it doesn't work, but in a sense, and this is just me being deliberately negative, every single novel is an act of time travel. It's kind of about travelling to a different time, even if it was just 5 seconds ago, or a different place within a different time. So in a sense, time travel is in every single novel ever written. So having a novel with time travel in it doesn't set you apart from anyone.
Well, I think having a novel doesn't set you apart from anyone because you're writing about people. And time travel is just a great way to magnify little aspects that I want to explore, whether that's growing old, growing up, whether that's something as normal as identifying yourself by the people you surround yourself with, friends, family, and then all of a sudden taking that away and saying, well, if you have to move in time and you can't stay in one time period, how do you define yourself? So I think it's a great vehicle to do that.
Anyone else want to attack time travel?
All right. How about the fact that with time travel, every plot arc necessarily collapses on itself in some such way that you are, well, the moment you introduce time travel, some quantity of paradox inevitably creeps into the work, and having creeped in, then rots it from the inside out.
Well, my answer to that is I think with anything you have to have rules, and I think that's sci-fi fantasy just in general. Or else it seems like you can just wave a magic wand and everything's fine, and it doesn't make sense, yet everything just resolves itself because you say so, and we're authors and we're wonderful. But I think with time travel, you have to have your rules of, okay, what can happen? If you change that little thing 30 years ago, how big is the ripple effect? Do you just not have a character anymore? Does the book end after page 50 because, wait a second, your protagonist doesn't exist anymore? You just have to have rules and see where that takes you.
Okay, so we let time travel carry on. Okay, or we will, or maybe we did yesterday. So who wants to take issue with fallen angels? Or angels in fiction, full stop? Difficult to have rules with angels, because they're so powerful, so divine, so difficult.
How would you differentiate angels from vampires and other fantastical beings? Because I think you mentioned that they're a lot like vampires, but why angels and not vampires then?
Well, for starters, A, they don't bite you, they have an aversion to garlic, and they don't burst into flame.
Do they sparkle?
They might sparkle a bit, okay, fair. I'll grant you that one, but it's like the dark alluring kind of sparkling. And also divine power, how can you beat that?
Isn't it a problem though? Because whenever you introduce divine power, you must have a god. And if there's a god, then the god is all powerful, sort of monotheistic god. And if there's an all powerful god, good is always going to win, and everything will always happen happily ever after. So you kind of wipe out a lot of sort of hazard and general mayhem.
Well, for starters, I mean, there is a god in this, which is I am writing this novel, and I'm deciding. And second off, I decided to make my fallen angels a meat shack to give them some limits.
Yeah.
So they don't actually have any special insights. They just have cool magical powers and they blow things up a lot.
Cool.
It's pretty fun.
Excellent. So, spaceships. Why don't we just beam to other planets? Why do we need to put a hunk of alloys and other metals together and put an unlikely engine into it and break all the rules of physics that we know we can't break?
Because beaming yourself to another planet requires that you break even more rules of physics. I mean, beaming would be decent, but if you would have to then construct some mechanism by that would work. The thing about spaceships, not only do they have not only they're actually the way we're likely to genuinely get from one place to another, but also they are a vehicle with which one can do a tremendous amount in terms of storytelling. For instance, in Roboteer, you have people crammed into a teeny tiny space in the middle of a spaceship where the spaceships themselves are kilometers on a side. So I get to play with the themes of enormous pieces of technology and also themes of kind of U-boat level tension and anxiety with people squeezed together in tightly confined spaces. What other kind of setting in science fiction or fantasy will give you that, I ask?
So I have a question. I'm a horrible driver. How's the traffic up there? do you have people just kind of saying this way, and stop, cross traffic?
The answer is that the traffic is worse than you might imagine. The issue is, well, particularly at least in the, I suppose it depends upon what form of warp drive you want to use. The kind that I use in this particular book, you can only travel a tangent to the galactic core, which creates a problem, of course, because even though you've got a three-dimensional galaxy, you can only travel on a surface. You've got a two-dimensional plane, which, roughly speaking, given that the universe, the galaxy is a disk, gives you sort of only approximately a disk to travel on. So the answer is that it's actually easier to sort of have traffic problems than you might imagine.
Traffic jam.
Yeah.
Big accidents.
Yeah.
Was that?
Big accidents.
Yes, it's terrible. They're usually called battles.
Oh, accidents of warfare. I see.
Yes, yeah.
So are we going to allow spaceships? Al, you must have a view on spaceships.
The problem is fundamentally I like spaceships. I'm trying to think of. I'm in favour of beaming people to the stars myself. So it's probably more practical to beam a digital version of yourself to another planet through some exotic form of quantum entanglement that totally hasn't been invented yet. Than fly generation starships, because you have huge ethical problems with generation starships. I think the only way we're going to reach other planets around other suns is through generation starships. And consigning several generations of your family to kind of some horrible metal tin in space, when science fiction has spent decades warning all of us what terrible things happen on generation starships, is a really unfair thing to do. So starships per se are magnificent. Completely unrealistic starships with hyperdrives and stuff like that. Excellent. I'd love one of those. If this signal reaches kind of Zeta Reticuli or something and there are aliens watching who have this stuff, please come. But realistic starships with the impossibly huge spaces that we've got to cross in space raise deep ethical problems for humanity.
Well, I would riposte by saying that warp drive is more plausible than you might imagine. All of the pieces of physics which we currently have that basically tell us that the faster than light space travel cannot be achieved, all are hinged upon certain mathematical formalisms which, while robust and self-consistent, are only but one type of formalism. All you have to do is introduce a couple of extra terms to the formalism to reinterpret general relativity through a slightly different lens, and you leave room for all kinds of exciting things to be done to the fabric of space-time, an area of physics which we as yet have not so much as even cracked open the Christmas present with.
Well, I'm going to allow spaceships mainly because we get to have the Millennium Falcon. That's good. Ventriloquist dummies, I'm not so sure about that. When we get to the future, will anyone even remember what ventriloquist dummies were in order to still be frightened by?
Oh, I think that will still be haunted by tiny wooden entities with strange piping voices and psychotic urges to destroy everything around them and possess humans. So they might be in slightly different forms, but they may not be in the sort of full bow tie, archaic sort of 20th century dress up. But yeah, they'll definitely be out there somewhere, I think. Robots are basically ventriloquist dummies with ambitions.
So does anybody else want to complain bitterly about ventriloquist dummies?
How about the issue that post-ventriloquist dummies we have this vast panoply of different cultural forms of essentially the same sort of thing. As you say, robots, but I'm thinking you mentioned transporting oneself digitally. How about the fact that if you look at sort of red versus blue and things like this that show up on the internet, you have sort of virtual characters having conversations and things like that. Why ventriloquist dummies as opposed to sort of virtual puppets or any other kind of
emojis on your phone coming to life?
Exactly. Yes, I'm terrifying.
That really is true.
Oh God! Right, I've got the next book now. No, I'm just not my coffee yet. Absolutely, yes. But I think ventriloquist dummies, as a culture, we've been engaging with kind of ventriloquist dummies with unreal things pretending to talk for thousands and thousands of years. In ancient Egyptian temples, priests pretended to talk through statues. In Greek temples, ventriloquist dummies as a form, puppets of a form, have existed as entertainment all the way through, you know, the kind of Middle Ages. You've got Punch and Judy coming in. You've got all kinds of madness going on. So they've been teaching us how to engage with technology and how to engage with these kind of strange little personalities that come from us but are separate from us for centuries and centuries. So I think it'd be very unfair if they don't get to go into the future with us, because they've already been here for a very long time, helping us engage with the other that we create, but that also overwhelms and possesses us.
But isn't the future going to be some kind of rare, new and wonderful thing where you will have no space for things that are hoary and dusty and really passe?
Oh, I really hope there are horrible, dusty, passe things in the future. You know? And the problem is we'll still be human, and humans always have attics full of junk that they collect and they haven't looked at for 20 years, and then they go up there and find dusty, scary things they haven't found. So I think there's going to be a lot of the past in the future. The past persists a lot more than you think.
Are you a frustrated horror writer?
Oh, no, you know, I love horror, you know, and I love that there should be more horror in science fiction, there should be more fantasy in science fiction. One of the things about writing worlds with virtual realities in is you can bring in that language of fantasy and horror and use it. And one of the things that triggered Hugo was thinking about things like the paperclip in Windows, which was a horrific monster of horror in its own right. But that was very much that sort of thing. The technology is taking on a personality of its own and starting to talk to you. I found it horrific and deeply disturbing, so I felt, yes, bring horror and science fiction through that.
Okay, well, I've been inspired, scared, worried by all of these things. So do remember to vote. If you are in favour of Hannah and time travel, hashtag time travel. If you are in favour of fallen angels, hashtag fallen angels for Aliette. If you think that spaceships are somehow something that have a place in science fiction, hashtag spaceships for Alex. And if ventriloquist dummies don't give you nightmares necessarily, ventriloquist dummies hashtag, which is the cruelest hashtag. But anyway, thank you very, very much for staying with us and for voting. And if there's more than 500 of you, perfect. You get to have signed copies of all of the books.
Comment on the video too.
Comment on the video, yes. I mean, tell us how exciting we've been, how boring we've been. Just tell us what to do next time round. Tell us what you'd like to see more of. Just give us comments. Let us know, because we'd love to hear from you. And that's us.